Friday. Jeff here, and I am in Houston now, and settling in. I still have some unpacking to do, and I'm in my office, and like my backdrop. Yeah, um, I thought I'd put that poster up to remind everybody that Mike Williams did write a really great book called One, and I'll talk to you about it a little bit. That's actually the cover. This is the real book right here. And so we got an email this morning, and the email basically was in response to what we sent out as an announcement for yesterday's Powercast. Somebody replied back this morning who probably hasn't heard Mike in several years, and his reply was, Mike, based on what you're saying in this email, does this mean that eventually all will be saved? And of course I replied to it real quick and told him that yes, all will be saved, but not eventually. It was at the cross. That's what the cross was all about. But it leads me to something that all will be saved eventually. That is, he probably is familiar with Christian Universalism, and there's quite a few, different, varying understandings in the Christian Universalist group, and we have been, the Gospel Revolution, Mike Williams Ministries, we have been referred to by a lot of people as being Universalist. And so I had to really look into Universalists, and most of the people I found, they're rather vague. They believe that God will eventually save everybody someday, some way, somehow. And that's not what we say. We do believe that the entire world, all have already been redeemed by Jesus Christ at the cross. And we use mainly Paul's writings to back it up, because Paul was the most developed out of the New Testament writers. He was the one with the greatest understanding of the scriptures. And remember those things? That's what Jesus called the law, the Psalms, and the prophets, and he said they were all about him. He understood what the scriptures were foretelling when the Christ would come and what he would do. And so Paul definitely had the most developed understanding of the work of the cross. And the reason that we are not Universalists is because not only do we believe that it's not someday and eventually, and it is now, but it's also a finished work. A lot of Universalists still think that there's going to be some purging either in this life, or for some people after they die, there'll be some purging before they can go on to be with God. But eventually they all get there. And call it purgatory or temporary stay in hell or something like that. And of course we don't teach any of that. We teach a finished work. It was finished at the cross. All wrath, all judgment. There's no coming judgment. We've also been referred to as ultimate reconciliation people and preterists, which we are also not. Now, we have ultimate reconciliation people in our group. We have preterist types in our group. We have Universalists in our group. Well, we also have an atheist, a couple of those. But we include everybody. We have plenty of Christians. We include everybody. The gospel includes everybody. So how could we not? But I want to explain briefly where we come up with our doctrine, and it's primarily Paul. A very good example of it is chapter 5 in the book of Romans. Now, the book of Romans, unfortunately, has been distorted from pulpits and books all around the world. The entire book is a letter that basically says we are one. It's explaining to the Jews and the Greeks in Rome just that. but it has been so distorted. If you want a full, teaching on the book of Romans, I'll put a link down below. Let's see, down below. I'll put a link down below to where you can download Mike's teaching on Romans chapter 1 all the way through to the end, verse by verse. And he'll take you the whole way through it. Another good one is the entire book of Galatians. I'll put that link down too. But this is definitely the gospel in a nutshell, especially the book of Galatians. It's shorter than the book of Romans, so you might want to get that. But it's the entire gospel of the redemption of the world, the finished work of the cross. When Jesus said it is finished on that cross, he meant it is finished. He said he came to fulfill the scriptures. Paul said that he fulfilled and abolished the law, the scriptures. So he did do what he said he came to do, a finished work, a redemptive work, and a saving work. In chapter 5 of Romans, Paul is talking about how everybody was in sin, dead, and in Adam. And he talks about how through this one man, all were dead, all had sinned, all were imputed with the sin of him, but he was a picture of the one to come, the last Adam, which was Jesus Christ. And Paul summed it all up in verse 18, where he says, "Therefore, as by the offense of one, judgment came upon all men to condemnation, even so by the righteousness of one, the free gift came upon all men unto justification of life." Amen, amen. One man did one thing that affected all, and then a last man, a last Adam, came and did one thing, also affected all. And it was at the cross 2,000 years ago. It's not an eventual thing. It's just a finished work. Well, next week I'll probably talk about one of the other two isms that I mentioned, whether it's ultimate reconciliation or preterism, and then the following week I'll do that one too. And maybe I'll throw some extra videos in between. So thank you all for your well wishes on my travels getting here. It was a long day. I held my breath because my truck wasn't running right, but it was a very long day, and I arrived around 10 o'clock that night. So thank you, everybody, and have a great weekend.